Hello there, my name is Heather and welcome once again to the Myth Rose channel. In this video, I will be talking all about polyester. What it is, how it's made, the cost on our environment, all that good stuff. This is a follow-up to my previous video, The History of Polyester, where I talked all about how it was invented and what happened thereafter. I shared that video with you good people about like 3 months ago, and I thought I would get this one out maximum a month after that, but clearly that hasn't happened. This is my second recording of this because the first one was terrible. So without further ado, let's get into it. Okay, a little bit more ado. If you're new here, thanks for coming. Take a look around. Please like and subscribe, especially subscribe and comment, share, what have you. There's a bunch of random videos on my channel, but now I'm focusing on deep dives into different kinds of fabrics, and then later things just in general about the fashion, textile, and dyeing industries. If you're a returning subscriber, thank you very much. Thank you for being so patient with me. So I'm just gonna enjoy my research and my reading and my making process and not put too much pressure on myself. So when's the next video? No idea. Also, people who are already subscribed, please like and share and comment and all that good stuff. Okay? All right, let's go. So polyester, how is it made? First basic question. Polyester can be made in a variety of ways, I believe, but one way, which is outlined in this really easy graphic from sewport.com, which I use as a resource for a lot of my videos, tells us that the first step in the process is to create a monomer. The process of creating polyester fiber begins with reacting ethylene glycol and dimethyl terephthalate at high heat. This reaction results in a monomer. Step 2 is creating a polymer. The monomer is then reacted with dimethyl terephthalate again to create a polymer. I'm not expanding on these because I don't really understand what's happening, so I can tell you all about all the other parts of polyester, but yeah. Okay, step 3, extruding. The molten polyester polymer is extruded from the reaction chamber in long strips, and these strips are allowed to cool and dry, and then they are broken apart into small pieces. So you'd think that when it gets into long strips, that's what you're gonna end up weaving into a fabric. No. So it makes a bunch of spaghetti noodles, and then they break them up into like sprinkles, and then they go to step 4, which is spinning. The resulting chips or sprinkles are then melted again to create a honey-like substance, which is then extruded through a spinneret to create fibers. So they make this honey-like substance and they force it through something like a pasta maker, but that makes much smaller pieces, and then that is the thread. And then step 5 is finishing. So the resulting polyester filaments may be cut or reacted with various chemicals to achieve the correct end result. From step 4, the spinning, when they actually make the thread, you can do a multitude of things with that to make different kinds of polyester fabrics. So after step 4, there's 4 main ways that the polyester can be processed, or usually is processed, to make different things that then become the fabric. So we're still not at the fabric stage yet. So number 1 is filament. We're still working from Sewport information here. Polyester filaments are long, continuous fibers that are often used to make really soft fabrics. And the thing about long, continuous fibers and what makes polyester so great as a material to work with is that the longer the fiber is, the smoother a fabric can be and the more integral it can be. When you use natural fibers like cotton or linen or wool, things like that, the fibers are shorter, so you have those little bits sticking out and you twist them together to make longer pieces, which is the yarn, but you've got the little bits sticking out all over the place. And so every little bit that's sticking out means that the yarn that you're making is just slightly weaker. When you have polyester, where you have control over the thread that you begin with, you start with many long continuous pieces and then you twist them together to make thread, then that's going to be stronger, depending on the quality and other things, than something with shorter pieces twisted together. This is just as long as you want them twisted together to make a really strong piece. The second kind is staple. So a staple is like a shorter fiber. It's the kind of fiber that you start with. Polyester staples resemble the staples used to make cotton yarn. So they're shorter. They're going to have those little bits coming off when one piece ends, and then it doesn't get fully twisted around because it's too short. Like when you braid your hair and you've got little wispies coming off, it's the same kind of thing. Like cotton staples, these polyester staples are usually spun into yarns. The third kind is tow or tow. I'm not totally sure how to pronounce it. This is like the filament, the first one, but they're more loosely arranged together. So whereas polyester filaments might be used to make a tight woven material, a tau, whatever, would be used to make a more loosely woven material. And the fourth kind is fiberfill. So this is also made with continuous filaments. However, they're produced specifically to be as bulky as possible. So these are going to be things that you use to make like outerwear or stuff outerwear, fill things like stuff, the polyfill that you put in pillows. Like this cute little pillow I made. This is fiberfill. Alright, so that's how you make polyester, the thread, and then that's the kinds of fibers that you make with it, and then the kinds of fabric you can make with it. You either knit it, which is how you get stretchy fabric. So this polyester fabric that I'm wearing right now is not actually a dress, it's literally just safety pinned on me. This would be knitted. Anything that's stretchy is knit. So if you think of a sweater that's knitted with yarn, it's kind of stretchy. It might not be super stretchy, but it's a little bit stretchy. If you think of something that's woven, like bed sheets are woven. They're not, typically they're woven, not knit. There's some stretchy bed sheets, but most of the bed sheets are not stretchy. So woven fabric is put together like this or like this. So it doesn't have a lot of room to move, but knitted fabric is all those intricate knots, so they've got places to go when you move the fabric, if that makes any sense. If you take a woven fabric and you pull it this way, so you pull it on an angle, it will stretch a little bit. Okay, so you can knit the fiber, you can weave it, so those are most of the fabrics that you're gonna have around you right now. You can also bond it. In different cases means different things, but with polyester it means melted together, so melted bonded fabric. That's actually what's in a lot of masks. So bonded fabric, because it's melted together instead of knit or woven, the holes that might be in the fabric are much, much smaller, which is why it was, at least at the beginning of the pandemic, preferred for homemade masks as the lining fabric. That's what I was using. That's what a lot of really cheap reusable grocery bags are made of, is bonded polyester. And I believe that the surgical masks are also made of a bonded polyester, but I could be wrong. It just feels the same and looks the same. Moving on. So who in this day and age makes polyester? Well, 15 years ago in 2006, China was the largest producer of polyester. However, by 2016, which is the most recent data I could find, Germany was the largest exporter of polyester, which really confused me because I was like, really surprised by that. And China is now the biggest importer. That's what I read. It seemed like a reputable source. I can't remember exactly which source it is. I'll leave all my sources in the description. It just seems wrong though. So also Taiwan, Korea, India, Japan, Indonesia, they're also major manufacturers of polyester. China is still a major manufacturer of polyester. It's just apparently not the biggest. Apparently Germany makes more polyester than China. Or it did in 2016. I don't know. This video is not easy to research. There was like more information about polyester and not enough at the same time. Like specific aspects of it, like this, who makes it now, were not as readily available, or maybe I'm just terrible at researching. I don't think so, but I'm researching for cotton right now and I've got like 4 videos worth of information already, but polyester is weird. I don't know, people aren't interested in it, so maybe there's not that much information. Most of the information I found is like, you're trying to look up polyester, like things about it, and it's just, you end up on like manufacturing websites and they're just saying how great their stuff is. Oh, and some polyester production still occurs in the US, but not very much. A lot of synthetic fabric production has labor rights issues with it because there's lots of chemicals, it's lots of heat, and yeah, I also couldn't get like any information on what it's like to be in the factory. I mean, obviously there's lots of chemicals in making polyester and there's huge quantities of it being made, so I'm assuming that it's not like all highly trained scientists operating machines that are creating this polyester. I'm assuming it's low-skilled workers in countries with less workers' rights pouring vats of hot chemicals together to make plastic fabric. Anyways, this is my third point on who makes it. This is all the information I have on who makes it. When polyester is made in Asia, it usually stays in Asia until it's a full, ready for consumption product. I have a graph here. The top 15 countries importing polyester. And the first one is China. So China's moved on to making the cutting and sewing as opposed to manufacturing the textiles. But Germany is the second one. And then I have this graph. Germany also exports most polyester. I made these notes ages ago, that's why I'm surprised. This data is from these people. China imports the most polyester by more than twice as much as the next country, which is Germany, and then the United States, which is close behind. And then exporting, Germany exports the most polyester, which is followed by United States, and then China is 4th in exporting. Okay, let's move on to cost. This is a very relevant piece because, well, economy and business. And that's how things change and get decided in our world. So this is one of the reasons why polyester is so ubiquitous in our lives. It's much cheaper than most other fibers. Currently, it is around $1 per pound. This might be from 2016, but I don't think it would change that much in the last 5 years. And the fabric is around $10 per yard, which sounds really expensive. You can buy things at the store for $10 a yard. I would assume if you're buying it at a manufacturing price, it'd be a lot cheaper. So this price fluctuates regularly with the market, as does the price of everything. However, it is much more stable, predictable, and reliable than the price of any natural or semi-synthetic fiber, because all those fibers rely on crops and animals and are therefore subject to the whims of Mother Nature. The production of polyester is almost totally removed from the natural world. Probably a couple years ago, one could have argued that it is like totally removed from the natural world. However, we now know that viruses and epidemics and outbreaks and pandemics happen, and people need to push those buttons and run those machines and make the factories work. Polyester's ability to be standardized across the globe is another reason or way that it keeps its cost down. It can be ordered in any color, in any print, and in exact quantities at any time of the year, no matter the weather conditions, and the price will stay the same as per the market. And these low and reliable prices discourage manufacturers and consumers from buying natural fibers or fibers that are better or just less bad for the environment. All right, what it's used for. What isn't it used for? There are so many different types of polyester that it can be used for almost anything. And that's not an exaggeration. There are very few things that polyester can't be used for, or that like need to be cotton or need to be wool or leather or what have you. Unless you've really worked hard to remove yourself from it, I'd be willing to bet any amount of money that there is polyester in every room in your house. All right, let's think. The kitchen. You have washcloths, tea towels, reusable grocery bags, reusable produce bags. The bathroom, again, washcloths, towels, bath mat, probably a million different toiletry things that I don't use, like makeup wipes or whatever. The bristles of your makeup brushes, the bristles of your toothbrushes, polyester. In the bedroom, we've got carpets, sheets, pillows, inside and out. Stuffed animals, again, inside and out. Curtains, the curtains in every room probably have some polyester in them. Although IKEA does have a lot of 100% cotton, so maybe not. The upholstery of your couch, the filling of your couch, throw pillows, throw blankets. You get it. It's everywhere. How much is it used really? So I said earlier it's ubiquitous, and then I proved it by listing a whole bunch of shit in your house. But just how ubiquitous is it? Well, latest data I can find, 2018, 52% of all the fiber produced globally was polyester. 52 freaking percent. It's not just the most produced out of the rest of the fibers, it's more than half of all the fiber we produce in a year. And we produce a lot of freaking fiber, like a lot. My studio here is filled with a huge fabric collection that is all secondhand. It's either like people bought fabric and then didn't use it and then sold it to me or gave it to the thrift store, or it's old curtains or old tablecloths, bed sheets, whatever. I made my room so full of it, and I could easily go get way more, and it's all used. I don't buy it new. I have a tiny shelf of new stuff that I sometimes buy for myself. That's it. There's so much of it. Guessing game. 55 million tons produced annually. Do you think that is how much fiber is produced in total on our planet? Or is it how much polyester is produced annually on this earth? It's how much polyester! Pessimists, you were right. 3 years ago, 4 years ago, we produced over 100 million tons of fiber. Now, no doubt we're producing at least a little bit more. That's too much clothes and curtains and bed sheets and like all the stuff we need fabric for. Thing is, we just have so much. All right, so how did we get to this 52%? Well, you might have guessed from what I already said. It's cheap. It's really fucking cheap. Always available in the exact quantity of print or color that you want and texture. And there are so many variations of it that it can be useful in almost every circumstance. The fact that it's produced in a factory has basically decoupled it from land use, meaning like you don't need a field to grow polyester fiber like cotton, or to graze sheep for wool, or cows for leather, or to grow flax for linen. You need, of course, like oil that's mined from inside the earth, but that's happening anyways. Oil drills actually don't take up that much space. So that's a different conversation. Yeah, and factories can be built up instead of out, so decoupled from land area. And the other reason is that we just have too much clothing. Okay, between 2000 and 2014, so that's not that long ago and not that long of a time, like historically speaking, 14 years is nothing. Global clothing production doubled. It went from 1 to 2, 2 to 4, 4 to 8, whatever. It became twice the amount. Did we have twice the amount of people in that time? No. Did we start doing twice the amount of, I don't know, different activities, or have twice the amount of different kinds of weather that we need to prepare for? Fuck no. What happened? Polyester evolved. It got pretty popular in like the 60s to 80s, but it was kind of all the same stuff. But now polyester has so many different disguises or uses, textures. It can be so, like I keep saying, polyester has so many different iterations. And this only came about more recently, just before 2000. And in 2002, the demand for polyester surpassed cotton. This whole 52% thing is recent, and it's very possible that we would not have the fast fashion industry that we have today if it weren't for polyester, and then the evolution of polyester. Okay, so if polyester was still like it was in the 70s, and you just had like those, that John Travolta suit from the disco movie, Saturday Night Fever, we probably wouldn't be wearing it as much. I wouldn't be draped in it now. I wouldn't want to be draped in that stuff. It was kind of like wearing plastic. Like if you go find vintage clothing from the 60s and 70s, it doesn't feel nice. This feels nice. It doesn't feel like I'm wearing plastic. That felt like you're wearing plastic. It got really popular because it was so much easier to take care of. But now it's easy to take care of and it's comfortable. It's good for athletics, blah, 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 all these things. It's just exploded. There's 55 million more tons of polyester on the planet every year. There's more than that now, I'm sure. 2016, 5 years ago. The whole world operates on a system that relies on growth. So yeah, there's definitely more than 55 million tons of polyester being added to our planet every year. That adds up fast. And what does that do? What does that mean for our environment? Let's see. Okay, so the eco cost of production. Now we're not talking money. It costs almost nothing to make polyester apparently. But what about the earth? Basically, every step of creating polyester is terrible for the environment. So first we have the process of refining crude oil. Because yes, don't forget, polyester comes from the same raw material that like gas for your car, different kinds of plastics, all that stuff. So the process of refining crude oil into petroleum introduces various toxins into the environment, which can be harmful for things both living in water and on land. Once the refineries have taken the oil and made it into petroleum, then it needs to be further refined into ethylene in order to make polyester. All these processes create waste and introduce toxins into the environment. Then the process of transforming ethylene into polyethylene terephthalate fibers produces even more harmful synthetic byproducts. And then the dyes and treatment processes used by the polyester manufacturers may also make their way into the local environment and cause poisoning problems in the ecosystem. Human costs of production. I found one iffy source that said the majority of polyester producers worldwide essentially engage in slave labor, and polyester workers are exposed to toxic chemicals that may cause neurological damage, cancer, or other potentially fatal conditions. I assume this is true, but I can't back it up. There was very little to be found. If you can find it, send it to me. Maybe it's very obvious or easy to find and I just missed it somehow. Yeah, send it to me if you know something about this. But it was really hard to find out the working conditions of someone who works in a polyester factory, making it from the ethylene. All right, so that's how it's bad for the environment while it's being made into a fiber, but then what about afterwards? What about its whole life cycle? So let's talk about microfibers. Fun. So turns out polyester is not the worst offender for microfibers. It's actually acrylic fabric, which yes, is different. However, polyester is a close second, so let's just forget about that. Polyester is plastic and therefore it takes a ton of time to break down and become one with the environment again. So microfibers can come off of your clothing at any time. It can be while you're wearing them and they can break off into the air. They're so tiny that they can float around for quite a while. And they can flow into our waterways when you're washing them in your washing machine. And there is estimated to be 176,500 metric tons of synthetic microfibers, mostly from polyester and nylon, released every year. So we can breathe them in, other animals can breathe them in, they can get into the soil and disrupt plants, they get into the water and they make their way up the food chain because they tend to collect and they don't get processed through whatever's eaten them. They don't get eliminated, so they just kind of build up in the small fish and then a bigger fish and then a bigger fish and then a bigger fish, and by the time you eat a fish like, I don't know, a tuna or something, it's got all the plastic from all the things that ate these microfibers went all the way up the food chain. And they also apparently attract toxins, so they're just kind of sit in your gut and attract bad things to sit in there with them. And I guess those toxins don't get processed by your body as they normally would and get flushed out because they're sticking to this plastic. And apparently the average person eats about a credit card's worth of plastic every week or month. Like, it's kind of crazy how much we do eat. So I guess it doesn't all stay in us because we'd just be full of plastic. But we're eating our own clothing. That we know this, and we're still making 55 million tons of polyester every year. How are we even gonna deal with the stuff we already have, let alone if we keep making more of it? So not all polyester sheds equally. Something like this will shed a little bit because it's got the velvet stuff, and so these pile threads can come out more easily. The worst offender is fleece, like polar fleece. That stuff sheds like mad. But things like athletic wear, like your yoga pants, they will shed a lot less. The older they get, the more they'll shed, but they won't be. If you get a new polar fleece sweater and a new pair of yoga pants, the polar fleece is gonna shed a lot more. You can get bags to put these in, to put in your washing machine, or just a filter to install in your washing machine to catch microfibers, because the reason they get into the water from your washing machine is because we do not have filters in our water filtration system, like our municipal water filtration systems, that can catch them. That's how small they are before they're released back into the ecosystem. All right, final part of its life cycle. What happens when you want to throw it out, when you're done with something? It can't be upcycled. It's worn out. It's done. Can it be recycled? In a word? Nah, not really. Let me elaborate. So the company Patagonia, which makes outdoor wear for like hiking and camping and whatnot, recycles its own polyester items. Keyword, its own. This is possible because they control what goes into the original product. So they make sure that it can be recyclable later. And they therefore plan for their own micro-circular economy, which makes a lot more sense to me than designing whatever you feel like and hoping you can find a way to deal with it later. You know, like maybe that made sense back in the day using only natural fibers, pre-polyester, and we're blissfully unaware of what the Industrial Revolution was going to eventually do to this planet. To be born in the 1700s. Would I give up my rights as a woman in modern day conveniences to get rid of my eco-anxiety? Some days, yes. When the world is on fire, yes! But not really. I wouldn't survive the 1700s. Okay. It makes more sense to plan the full life cycle of your piece, especially if you're going to be producing it en masse, than to just make something willy-nilly and hopefully you can deal with it later. So something that's 100% cotton can be recycled mechanically. They just they break it down into fiber again and then remake it into yarn or thread. But as soon as you have 5 or more % polyester, can't do it. So much of that 55 million tons of polyester that we make every year gets blended with other fibers, a lot of it being cotton, because it makes it slightly less wrinkly and easier to wash and like maybe last a little longer. If you have a piece of cotton that's blended with 5 or more % polyester, you can't recycle it. If it can't be upcycled, if it's threadbare, it's just garbage. If it's done its life as a rag, then it's just landfill. There's a possibility that in the near to distant future, there may come a technology that can melt blended polyester out of a blended fabric. However, it's not promised, it might not happen, and who knows on what scale it could be used. So forget I said that. In all practicality, in today's world, polyester cannot be considered recyclable. And even if we did recycle it, each time it got recycled, its integrity would be diminished at least somewhat, until it got to the point where it can no longer be recycled and would still be plastic in the landfill. It can't be recycled ad infinitum or down to nothing where you don't put anything in the landfill. The matter is still gonna be there at the end of the day. You're still gonna have to do something with it. If it was recycled and we didn't have to produce any more of it, that would be way better than making new polyester, of course. If we just suddenly stopped making polyester and we recycled all the old polyester we had, yeah, that'd be great. However, I assume still have to make more if we were relying on polyester, because eventually the stuff we recycle would wear out, and also we would still have all the microfiber problems. So you might be thinking, well, what about things that say they're recycled polyester? Well, my friends, those are old water bottles. Because yes, water bottles are literally the exact same material as your polyester clothing, your like yoga pants, or especially your athletic wear. It's the same stuff, it's PET. So water bottles can be taken and then reconstituted into yoga pants or athletic wear. However, this is just recycling a one-time use bottle into a new piece of fabric that can't be recycled again. Because like I said, polyester is not considered to be recyclable. So you could consider this more eco-friendly than making new polyester because it's already had a different life. However, if for example you don't buy one-time use water bottles and you have a reusable one that you always use, then buying the yoga pants or whatever made out of recycled water bottles doesn't really help all that much. Also, they still have all the microfiber problems and the end-of-life problems that are going to end up in a landfill. And of all the polyester in the world, polyester made from recycled bottles or recycled plastic made a whopping 16% of the market back in 2017, but that was its peak, and latest data says it's down to 13%. That's probably going nowhere fast. Polyester, no bueno for the environment. But some of you may have heard of plant-based polyester. Ooh, that's a titillating prospect. Nah, it's not really. Sorry. So if we're looking at plant-based polyester because regular polyester is so bad for the environment, that means we're looking to replace regular polyester with something that could be more sustainably produced. This won't happen with plant polyester because it would have to just take over the entire industry. And again, one of the reasons that polyester is so ubiquitous and so easily used in so many different instances is because it's decoupled from nature. It doesn't rely on plants or animals to flourish. It doesn't rely on the weather. It doesn't matter what's happening outside, inside, polyester is being produced. Plant-based polyester would have to be so great that making an infinite amount of it would not harm the earth and would have to switch it immediately. But also, the plants that make plant-based polyester have been through such rigorous chemical manufacturing that they're not really considered plants anymore. This enters into the territory of semi-synthetics, like rayon, which is technically made from birch wood, but it changes the natural raw material at a cellular level that it might as well be plastic. These products aren't even biodegradable anymore. So rayon is made from wood, but it's not biodegradable. That's how much has been changed in the process. Not to mention that the history of rayon manufacturing is littered with people dying from making it. During World War II in Germany, there was rayon factories, and the only people they could convince to work in the factory were people that they took out of concentration camps and put in the factories. They couldn't get any free person to do it. That's how bad it was. People were going blind, they were dying, they were getting all kinds of diseases, they were getting their skin burned off, really gruesome stuff. Alright, so that's all the bad news I have to give you about polyester today. Based on my lackluster research, this video ended up being kind of a random spattering of facts about polyester, but you know more than you did before you started watching, at least I hope so. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, share, all that good stuff. Especially subscribe, please. Oh, and definitely ring the notification bell if you want to know when I upload a video, because as I mentioned at the beginning, it's totally random. I make no promises anymore. Thanks for watching, and see you later.